Hey everyone, P. McGee here with week 6 of the Clodsire Premier League. As it stands, I am currently 4 and 1 in the league, looking to try to pick up that fifth win this week against my opponent Aero, who has kindly joined me on the mic today. Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm all right. How are
Not,
you?
not too bad. Excited to talk about this matchup here. We'll go ahead and dive right into it and talk about some of what I'm seeing here. And then, of course, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what you're seeing as you go into the prep here. On my end, I'm once again dealing with weather, unfortunately. This time it's sand. I've dealt with snow earlier in the season, running into sand, so seeing the T-Tar Excadrill combo. And then a lot of team members that just don't really care that much about the sand. The Skarmory's fine in it. A regen core that really is unfazed by it, and then some support pieces on the back end, like the Infernape, the Hatterene, the Raikou, the Regidrago, that can all manage the sand damage pretty well. But that sand threat is surprisingly dangerous against me just because of how powerful that regen core is, and that's really what I really where I want to start the conversation. Looking at this team here is that regen core is nasty. Your Toxapex is inexplicably on the or near the top of the kill leaderboard. So this has been a very functional regen core that I'm very nervous to run into right now, just because breaking through that, especially with some of my premier pieces, namely Palafin, is almost an impossibility. Palafin really has no way through this core. So looking at that, I'm seeing a very difficult to break defensive backbone, and then the threat of sand and the danger of Excadrill in sand because stab with earthquake, or I'm sorry, stab with rock slide just blasts right through everything. Palafin isn't really eating earthquakes very long. Nothing else really wants to come into that. Moltres can't withstand the rock slide, so Excadrill is really, really dangerous for my team, and so the sand enablement from that and the speed it gives it is really, really problematic to me. And Palafin isn't a simple solution because Palafin has very little ways to make progress until that regenerator core has been dealt with. But even getting outside the sand, I'm seeing the Spectrier, which is concerning. My Dark and Normal is consolidated to one Pokemon, which is not handling Draining Kiss very well, which is Obstagoon. So I have to look at alternative solutions this week. I'm sure folks that have followed along will see where I'm probably going to go as my answer for that. And then, Moltres is important to me in this matchup looking at it, but pretty much everything you have can learn Rock Slide, it feels like. You got the Skarmory that gets Rock Slide, T-Tar, you've got the Excadrill, the Infernape can slot Rock Slide, so even the Tangrowth can slot Rock Slide. So dealing with all of that Rock spam is really, really concerning for me. The silver lining I'm seeing in this matchup, though, is that you want to be able to run Rocky Helmet most likely to deal with the Palafin momentum, but that enables potentially the danger of Doug Trio. And so that's kind of my silver lining looking at this matchup is, Doug Trio maybe I'm on that can really break through a lot of these pieces here if I play it right. So um, that's kind of what I'm looking at as my ways out as I'm kind of gazing around the whole team preview here. The end of your team, the Infernape, the Hatterene, the Raikou, the Regidrago, they all concern me to a degree, but I have some pretty natural solutions to quite a few of those. Especially the Regidrago, the Raikou don't really pressure Meganium that well. The Hatterene can do some damage, but again doesn't pressure the Meganium that well. And then the Infernape is scary in its own right, but I can play around that if I'm careful. So it's really those front six that are causing me the most concern. But certainly the danger of the back four is being considered as I go through team prep. So on your end, what is it you're seeing here as you're going into prep that is like causing you concern, or you're seeing openings? What's your thought process here?
I mean, well, the main problem, of course, is the centerpiece, the Mega Meganium,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, Solar Beam does almost half to Pex, and it'll 2-hit KO like fully split F Pex after rocks.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so I definitely needed to keep rocks off, especially because I wouldn't be able to run boots with Dugtrio waiting for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also even though I have an extra drill and a Tangrowth, I still was concerned about the Regieleki naturally, just because nothing else. I guess I have Tyranitar to check it as well, but just losing momentum to Volt Switch and then you just go into Palafin immediately if it's
Mm-hmm.
on my Spadef Tyranitar. since if you because I was concerned about Sash Dug Trio trapping my X drill,
Yes.
even if I had sand up. But
Interesting.
overall, I knew just as long as I had one of my two regen mons alive, Palafin wasn't too big of an issue, and Rain in general wasn't as big of an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just had
I
no way through that regen core with Palafin. I couldn't set up because you have Haze on the Pex, Giga Drain on the Tangrowth. I couldn't blast through you as easily because there's always a threat of Rocky Helmet, although Doug Trio helps a little bit with that. But yeah, that regen core just shuts down my Breaker Mon so effectively. It was really, really frustrating going through that prep process with that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I was very concerned about Obstagoon, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, just because it can't it can't do the traditional job of checking my ghost type since
Mm-hmm.
it's Spectre Air, but if it finds a way in on like drill outside of sands on my specially defensive pecs on Tangrowth who can't exactly hit it back,
Mm-hmm.
then it won't have that many turns to do its thing, but it could have blasted a pretty big hole into my team.
That makes a lot of sense. I very briefly considered Octagon, but I felt that he was too likely to enable the Skarmory, especially a version that doesn't run weak armor, because you don't necessarily need it in this matchup. Is what I was looking at going through that. So I was scared of just giving you free Skarmory setup with Obstagoon or letting Spectrier in and threatening to KO, and I couldn't find a slot for him. But I see where his pressure would have been, especially with the facade spam.
Yeah, and then once my team was built, I realized it was not great into Slitherwing,
Mm-hmm.
but I resolved to just deal with it with Skarmory and playing around it.
No, that's fair. Yeah, certainly Slitherwing has some opportunity here if it can get the right situation, but Skarmory is just such a frustrating Pokemon to deal with, especially the Mega, because now it has that weak armor potential to get speedy all of a sudden, or it doesn't need to and it can stay bulky and set up that way. So Skarmory is really frustrating from a prep perspective to counter prep against.
Yep.
Um, cool. Anything else you saw that you wanted to talk about right here?
Uh, mm, I don't think so.
That's fair. Cool. So let me quickly walk through my six. I've seen your paste a little bit. I'm very excited to talk about some of the elements of that. So we'll go through mine quickly and then we'll talk through yours. So first up, I am still bringing the Palafin. If I can address the regen core, then he's a really really effective closer. Just because Jet Punch starts to annihilate everything else. But that's more of a late game situation. But I'm running a Palafin, Adamant Nature, 56 HP, 252 attack, 4 defense, 196 speed. The 196 speed, I think, allows me to outpace the Reggie Drago, which I wasn't super concerned about, but I had concerns that may show up. And so just wanted a way to be able to come in on it and click Ice Punch before it started setting up if I had to. So Jet Punch, Flip Turn for the Momentums, Wave Crash for the maximum damage output, and then, like I said, that Ice Punch. So he doesn't really do much setup potential here, which is why I didn't even bother with it because the regen core was going to shut me down. But I did feel good about the potential of momentum here. So you had two obvious switch ins. It could be either one of them, but two obvious switch ins every time, which is one of the regen mons, Toxapex or the Tangrowth, both of which I felt I could abuse with other Pokemon if I could generate that momentum. And the threat of Doug Trio reduces the likelihood that Toxapex is going to slot Rocky Helmet in this matchup. And so I felt that even though the flip turns weren't going to make any progress on damage, they could create field position for me. And so that was what I was trying to lean into with the Palafin here because I thought it was the most likely to force obvious counteractions by you. And so that was my hope with him in this matchup.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up is the Mega Meganium, Modest Nature, 176 HP, 252 special attack, 80 speed. I think the 80 speed is just to let me get past. Actually, I don't think the 80 speed is for anything specifically. It's just to help me for any speed creeps that are trying to skirt past it. So maybe Tyranitar, maybe Reggie Drago that's going more bulk rather than speed, just to give me a little bit of speed creep on that. Solar Beam, Weather Ball make very perfect sense. The Earth Power, and I'm going to get in front of this now, is a mistake on my part. I had originally slotted it for the threat of Infernape, I guess, but in hindsight, I'm realizing Infernape's not likely to ever hard switch on me in this matchup. The Earth Power damage is the same as the Solar Beam damage against the Toxapex, so there's no advantage to Earth Power. What I should be slotting in this spot, and I had this epiphany when I was driving home from work one day, and I forgot by the time I got home and never fixed it. I should have slotted knockoff here. I think that would have been a more valuable move for Meganium in this matchup because I see the likelihood of Meganium getting opportunities against some Pokemon that don't want to lose their items and having that opportunity to click knockoff. So that's really what I should have put in that spot. The Earth Power has virtually no value. The Raikou isn't going to 1v1 me. I don't need that explosive Earth. Again, Earth Power damage is the same as Solar Beam damage, so I don't need the Earth Power on Raikou. I never was going to be in a good position against Infernape except as a hard predict switch in, which I don't think you're ever likely to do. So I think that's a mistake slot, but I do have it for this matchup, and we'll talk about that more later. So the goal with Mega Meganium here is because Flip Turn on Palafin forces in one of your region mons most likely. Meganium is well suited to pressure those aggressively, especially if you're maybe Helmet Tang, which is a possibility. But even AV only can do so much against the Weather Ball damage. So if I get decent chip on a Tangrowth, Weather Ball starts to become an explosive way to maybe KO even an AV Tangrowth. So that's the goal here. But then I do feel she's also necessary defensively because she gives me some protection against the Raikou, some protection against the Regidrago in case they show up as some out of the box sweep options. Although I don't think they're super strong in this matchup, I just needed to make sure I had some natural immunity, which is what she offers there. So that's her goal in this matchup. Next up, who I've been alluding to, is the Doug Trio. Jolly Nature, 252 attack, 40 defense, 216 speed. Earthquake, very obviously does well here. I think, what is it? One Tyranitar, Excadrill, Toxapex, Infernape, Raikou, all weak to ground. So he felt really strong as a trapper and a KO, or he's faster than all those Pokemon naturally. Sucker Punch was valuable against a Spectrier, although I certainly consider the fact you would either have Wisp or Substitute, so that was not a safe click by any means, but it was there to have in case I needed it late game. Endeavor very specifically against the Skarmory, so that if he did what he needed to do, and Skarmory being the most likely switch in, I could prevent it from being able to set up well. Because I believe, and I could be wrong on this, maybe you know, Endeavor I believe would trigger the weak armor, but I'm not positive on that.
I'm not 100% sure on that interaction either.
But in theory, that's what happened for me, so that I could Endeavor, take the Skarmory health way down, and then get that defense drop, which always enabled Palafin to revenge if I needed to, so that the Skarmory never got going. And then for whatever reason, if none of those moves fit the need of the situation, I had Stealth Rocks as a way to put rocks up. You mentioned already in our pre-talk here that you didn't like the danger of rocks and how that might chip away at your regen core. So certainly I wanted to have a way to put them up if it made sense. So that's kind of what Doug Trio's here to do. But really, he's here to trap and KO. You know, and you're certainly considering in your prep, and we'll talk about that shortly, that there's a danger of Doug Trio here. He's very effective against this team overall. And so just being able to get in front of those, especially when Palafin, I think, creates some of those opportunities, really would enable Doug Trio to take out a few things that are problematic to me. Most ideally, the Toxapex. Taking out Toxapex blows open the matchup, in my opinion. So if I can find a way through that, then Palafin's in a better spot and the rest of the team is in a better spots. So that's his hope going into this matchup. Next up is the Moltres, running a pretty basic set yet again. Timid Nature, 248 HP, 20 special attack, 240 defense. I'm sorry, I take that back. 248 HP, 20 defense, 240 speed, Timid Nature. So that way he is outspeeding Excadrill if Sand is not down, which I thought was really valuable. Again, everything has rock moves here, it feels like. So I'm not really relying on Moltres to be able to tank any real damage. Moltres is maybe here to fish for some burns, or in the chance that you lose Sand, take out the Excadrill with the Flamethrower because it would be faster than it. So that's Moltres' primary goals. U-turn, obviously. Defog because you have a lot of rockers. But really just trying to fish for a few burns, be available as a late game option against the Excadrill or the Tangrowth to get those KOs, but otherwise just trying to pivot around and keep hazard control under control. Next up is the Nihiligo, which is running Timid Nature, 248 HP, 4 defense, 48 special attack, 72 special defense, 136 speed. Always a funky spread with him. Foul play specifically for the Excadrill so that it doesn't have a free setup in front of the Nihiligo. It can't ever click Swords Dance if I get to that point in the game. Even foul play without a boost does quite a bit of damage. Sludge Wave is a good primary stab option. Thunderbolt, again, for like the Skarmory, the Toxapex damage. And then Grass Knot to help with the Tyranitar, although I don't think I'm ever breaking through Tyranitar unless it's really, really low on the HP with that sand boosted special defense. Really, though, the primary goal of Spectrier of Nihiligo is because it's wearing the Assault Vest, is going to help me keep the Spectrier sweep in check. I mean, you have like Mud Slap, but I think that's even equal damage to Shadow Ball. So really, I'm just having to deal with Shadow Ball spam mostly from the Spectrier, and this withstands that really, really well for a while and forces it out a few times. So that's the goal of Nihiligo here is really just to check defensively. It helps a little bit with like the Red Drago and the Raikou if it needs to. Can help a little bit with the Tangrowth if it's not slotting Earthquake, but primarily its goal is to deal with your number one mon, the Spectrier. But it could sweep potentially late game if I'm able to take out the Excadrill and things are weakened down to the point some of my other coverage moves can KO where they need to. So it's always a threat to get rolling, get more KOs, but in this matchup, it's aimed to be a defensive piece. And then finally, I have the Slitherwing, Adamant Nature, 252 attack, 40 defense, 216 speed. The speed is in a spot in which Flame Charge should, in theory, get me past Spectrier. My expectation is you're going to speed creep the Spectrier to just be faster than the Dugtrio. You're not going to just run 252 speed on a Timid Nature. You're just going to creep past the Dugtrio. So I creep a little bit past that creep with the Slitherwing here, and then the Flame Charge will get me faster than the Spectrier in theory. But of course, there's a potential I'm wrong, and you may outspeed me. Flame Charge for the speed boost, Leech Life for good bug type and keeping me on the field, so that way I can pressure aggressively against the Tyranitar, pressure aggressively against the Tangrowth. Earthquake for coverage against the Excadrill, the Toxapex, the Infernape, the Raikou, all them. Flare Blitz for the Skarmory, and to a degree the Spectrier as well if I need that explosive damage output. So its goal is to take advantage of your predictive switch-ins against the Palafin because Palafin's going to bait out one of the regen mons. This can set up in front of both of the regen mons. You can't haze away the booster energy boost. You can only haze away the flame charges. So I do stay strong and effective against the Toxapex if it's trying to haze and prevent that way, but also I really aggressively force out the Tangrowth if that's the one that comes in. So Slitherwing feels like a really good closer here. The main hitches to it are, of course, the Excadrill and Sand, which is likely to still outspeed me even at +2 boosts, and the Skarmory, which could be a weak armor one, and I could trigger the weak armor speed boost, and then again, that would outspeed me. So both of those are concerns going into that as a ways to stop the Slitherwing sweep, but if I'm able to address those or put myself in a good spot late game, this is a really good closer for me. So those are my 6. My goal is to just ultimately use Palafin as momentum because I don't think you're going to be able to effectively slot Rocky Helmets here, and then try to enable some of the other mons to take advantage of those predictable defensive plays on your end. So walk me through your pace, walk me through your game plan.
Uh, yeah. So, I mean, the first mon, the balloon Excadrill,
Mm-hmm.
I just need that was more of a defensive option just because I needed to ensure that it wouldn't get trapped by Dugtrio if I got caught outside sand.
Mm-hmm. Which
And
makes a lot of sense. Really clever play on your
yeah,
end.
and I just brought 4 attack. I don't. Your team wasn't that defensive, and I needed the rock slide coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So I and yeah, for the Tyranitar, I just brought standard Spit FT Tar, just with low kick instead of in case I needed to hit Obstagoon on a switch in, although it didn't end up coming. And I was fine with if it got trapped early as long as I got rocks up.
That made sense. I mean, the problem with Tyranitar is it's really hard for me to create a scenario to get my Dugtrio in front of that because you're not likely to switch it in on any of my pivot mons. You're not going to take
Yeah,
so there's no clean way for me to do it without a hard switch. And man, hard switching a Doug Trio in is a tall order. So it's very difficult to trap the Tyranitar, even though I would have blown it up if I could have had the chance.
yeah. Um, yeah, the Skarmory was just like standard SD. It has the weak armor in case it came in on a just on a pivot move or something that it could take, and
Mm-hmm.
then it could set up to sweep. The Tangrowth, uh, I probably should have slotted in a rock move on it just because Moltres would like guaranteed end up coming in on it at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wasn't sure, and I was still a little bit concerned about if Archaludon came, so I put Focus Blast instead.
Yeah, I mean, even just having the knockoff though is really valuable on a Tangrowth in a matchup like that because you are obviously trying to position rocks early and often against me, and if you can knock off my predictable heavy duty boots on the Moltres with the Tangrowth, that's basically mission accomplished. You're really limiting the mobility of Moltres from that point on in the game. So even though you don't have a rock move, Tangrowth is still fully able to cripple the Moltres with a well timed knockoff in the matchup.
Yep. Yeah, and then the Toxapex, I just Meganium is a huge threat,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I just needed all the special defense. I do realize I missed four EVs, but ho fortunately it didn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah,
But yeah, I just standard set, Scald Haze, Recover Toxic, and
that
then
makes
this
sense.
for Spectrier. Well, for Excadrill and Skarm, I got kind of lazy with the EVs, and I just maxed everything. And the one Pokemon that I didn't max was the Spectrier, and that's the one that ended up biting me in the ass.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But yeah, you have the substitute on there, which is not a surprise to see, and then the Draining Kiss. So really, Obstagoon
Yeah,
would not have been a good answer in this matchup, and Dugtrio would not have been able to revenge this either. So um, I'm glad I kept that in mind in my prep. But that's a scary Spectre set. It's basic, but like it's very effective. I mean, you get a free sub, a free Calm Mind. You become really, really difficult to deal with.
yep,
So that's your team. It seems like your goal here is to manage my offense as best you can with your regen core, and then create opportunities for some of your breakers to come in mid to late game and to start breaking me apart. Ideally enabled by some stealth rocks or some sand from the Tyranitar. I do like the air
yep,
balloon Excadrill. I think that's really clever. I didn't really consider that. I should have considered that, but I didn't consider that as an option in my counter prep. That you might not need shed shell on the Excadrill. You might just be able to slot an air balloon and buy yourself a free switch in that way because it's really unlikely that I'm clicking an attack with Doug Trio that's not Earthquake. And so that's just a really free opportunity for you to get in safely if you need it. So kudos there.
thank you.
Anything else with your team you want to talk through right now?
Um, I think that was pretty much it.
Okay. I forgot to share my screen with you, so let me go ahead and do that really quickly so that we can talk the matchup. All
I
right.
see it.
Perfect. So getting into the matchup itself, what was I going to say? I see your front six are the six you end up bringing. You don't bring the back four, which is fine. I didn't really plan hard against those back four Pokemon. I just had more natural solutions to those than built out ones. But these are the front six that we're expecting to see and causing the most problems. So on my end, I'm not seeing any real surprises here. You're going to lean into the sand a little bit. You have the Spectre as a closer. I'm going to have to find a way through that regen core in order to win the matchup here. On your
Yeah.
end, looking at the matchup, any surprises on your end on what you're seeing, or pretty much what you expected?
This is pretty much the mons I expected. There were like eight that I thought that could have come,
Mm-hmm.
but everything that came was in my scope of expectations.
Fair enough. Yeah, I didn't really consider the Regieleki. I know you talked about that earlier, but the Regieleki just felt dangerously bad in this matchup unless I was going to go like Explosion against the Excadrill here. I just didn't like the potential of being walled out by that and enabling Excadrill turns because I didn't really have good defensive switch-ins on Excadrill. I had to guess, and I don't like playing that guessing game more than I have to. So I understand why you considered it, but from my end, I felt so dangerous I couldn't possibly enable that horrifying Excadrill any further.
Yeah.
So talking leads in this matchup, when I'm looking at this matchup, I see the regen core. I've seen myself be punished too many times for Palafin leadoffs in previous weeks, and so I don't feel good about my Palafin lead here. I feel like if you lead Tangrowth or you lead Toxapex, I'm forced to hard switch out, and they get to click Toxic or Knock Off or some kind of move right off of turn one. I don't like that. So my goal is to position myself in a way where if I get the at least one of the regen wands that come out on turn one, and then I'm enabling myself. So if Tangrowth comes out, then I'm going to lead Moltres here, is I guess what I'm trying to say. I'm going to lead Moltres in this matchup because if you counter lead Tangrowth, then I get to force that out ideally on turn one. If you lead Toxapex, I have enough of a switch out from there I can position. I didn't want to run into Baneful Bunker Pex, who I thought was a possibility here. If you couldn't slot Rocky Helmet, you could slot Baneful Bunker and prevent me from flip turning that way. And so at least with the Moltres, it felt more safe as a scout around if I get one of those leads. Or if you lead the Tyranitar, then Moltres can pivot on either of those, and I can feel better about that. From your point of view, what are you looking at when you go for the lead in this matchup?
I mean, for me, it's pretty clear that Toxapex is just the safest in general, just because I
Mm-hmm.
have Shed Shell. So it doesn't matter if it gets U-turned or flip turned on at the start.
And that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I expected something, at least one thing would have the shed shell, but I needed to confirm that early in the game to know for sure. So I couldn't lead Dugtrio. Obviously, that would have been really, really bold. So I have to counter lead against the hope that you lead Tangrowth, and then I don't really have a solution for early game Pex other than pivoting away from that. So uh, we'll go ahead and play out turn one here. You, like you said, lead the Toxapex. I lead the Moltres. I can't really stay in on that. I'm going to click U-turn on the chance that you click Baneful Bunker. I don't really care if Moltres gets burned, but it forces out my Nihil Ego. That's really the only switch in on the Pex here. I'm going to hard switch here, expecting you to either continue Scalding or have a knockoff or liquidation. This is right here what I'm talking about, where I'm really frustrated at myself for not packing that knockoff. It would have been a really free opportunity here. I think you were
Yeah.
giving it to me, but I didn't slot it, so it doesn't really matter. I can't talk about what I would have done, but I the opportunity was certainly there for me to get a knockoff early in the game and help prevent the mobility of Pex for the rest of the game because you couldn't safely switch Pex in from there on out. If I had knocked off, you would have been in danger of getting flip turned into the Doug Trio, and then that would have been in the end of Pex. So I've certainly frustrated myself there, but I'm going to click Solar Beam because that's my best damage outputter and see what I get. 44, really solid, but the Toxic is there and starting to threaten. I'm going to hard switch to Palafin because I expect you to hard switch, which you do to Tangrowth. And so this is a flip turn. I'm going to take the flip turn just because I need to know what your item is. I'm actually surprised it's not Rocky Helmet at this stage of the game. I fully understand why you went AV. There's no confusion there in hindsight, but I was a little caught off guard when I didn't get chunked by Rocky Helmet right there. So I was trying to figure out. And then you get that knockoff I was talking about. So even though you don't have the rock move, you've already crippled my Moltres' mobility if you get rocks up anywhere later in the game. So certainly you're doing well off the bat right now. So I'm going to sit in Solar Beam here, try to figure out what you're doing. I think you try to call a hard switch maybe. No, you just Scald for more damage. That's your only damaging attack. I'm going to be aggro here, call the Tangrowth switch in, which I do. Obviously, because it lived, it has to be AV. And no other set would have survived Weather Ball. I call another switch and you send out this. I'm just trying to break your regen core right now. The problem with regen cores is they're really, really hard to break. And I decide to sack my Meganium here and hoping I get the right predict. I'm wrong. If I had guessed correctly, I would have obviously gotten the Tangrowth, but that's not what happened here. I'm feeling really bad about my position already. I haven't been able to break your regen core. I'm feeling nervous about how I can still do that because I've realized that your Toxapex definitely has the shed shell, and I have no knockoff user, and so I need to break that immediately. Otherwise, I'm going to get walled out by that. So I feel like I have to come in with Slitherwing at this point and try to set up against you. So I'm going to go for the Flame Charge, try to get the attack boost or the speed boost, hoping that you're not weak armor, which of course you are. So that's pretty horrific for me. And then I'm going to go the Moltres because I know you have to Brave Bird there. You can't let me continue to set up. I get the burn, but um, it only has so much value for me.
Yeah. Because I knew you would switch, but I couldn't risk it, and since Skarmory would just two shot anything,
Yep.
there was no reason to not Brave Bird.
No, I mean Brave Bird was the safe play there. I mean, I guess you could have clicked. Did you have Swords Dance or no? I don't remember.
I I think I did.
Okay.
I ran SD Rock Slide Roost Brave Bird.
Okay. So I mean, you could have Swords Dance there, but I think it makes sense what you're doing because you're just trying to create the opportunity, and you know that Paladin can always revenge kill it, so you're just gonna
Yeah,
go for max
and
damage here.
cause yeah, I'm still in I'm in a winning position,
Mm-hmm.
so I just need to if I trade one for one, as long as it's not one of my regen guys, it's
Yep.
all right.
Yep. And so you're exerting pressure. You're forcing things to get damaged, which is really really great for you. Uh, Another really unfortunate thing for me here is that you're going to live on that 1 HP. Really frustrating because I get put in a bind here. I don't want to sack Moltres at this stage of the game. I want to try to keep Moltres alive. But I don't want my Palafin to take another 31% from another Brave Bird. So it's going to force out my Jet Punch here to get the KO, which just lets your bulk come in freely. So that's pretty frustrating. So you get to get some regens going on, which is really unfortunate. U-turn because that's all I can really do. Slitherwing's going to
I
come
thought
back in.
Doug Trio would come in here.
I should have. That would have been the smarter call in hindsight. You know, I think I thought to myself I could get a roost out on this Tyranitar if I stayed in, but what was I going to say? Um, I was afraid you would also click a knockoff or something on the Moltres and just try to collect the KO. And so
I see.
I didn't want to lose the Doug trio on a bad predict because I still, even though I doubted it, I thought there was potential. Maybe you could be like Shukaberry Toxapex or something like that. I had my doubts, but I didn't want to give my Doug trio away for nothing when I thought he might have potential later in the game. And I have no idea your air balloon yet. So I still see value in him in this matchup, but I didn't want to be too aggro at this stage and
Uh,
risk losing him.
Gotcha.
But you get rocks up, which means my Moltres is dead on entry because I lost my boots. I'm going to go for my Flame Charge and try to set up again, create a new opportunity here. You go for Rock Slide for good damage. I do have Leech Life, which is obviously useful to have in this matchup. So you're going to send out your Spectrier. I'm going to get some Leech Life recovery against
Yeah, I
that.
was expecting a fighting move.
Yeah, which makes sense. Certainly, there's reason to slot fighting here. You have quite a few Pokemon that are weak to fighting as well. I just felt with the Leech Life and the Earthquake coverage, I addressed most of that pretty well. Since I didn't think Tyranitar won that 1v1 anyway, even with Leech Life, maybe not getting the damage output that would be necessary to KO, you would just be in a spot where I'm healing against the Tyranitar, and I would feel okay about that. But I understand what you were saying with the potential for close combat
Yeah.
spam. And you'll stay in. My Flare Blitz is enough to KO, even though I no longer have the booster energy boost. Um, and you're still obviously concerned about a fighting move, so you don't want to send out the Excadrill yet. Even the Flare Blitz is enough to KO, so you're not going to send that out yet. I Earthquake, which is good. Would have loved to Leech Life there. I got that wrong on the predict, obviously. We had a Leech Life here, I believe. And then I'm pretty.
Yeah, I know I'm sacking Tyranitar already. I just want to get a bit more HP on
Yep,
Toxapex.
makes perfect sense. I'm not going to get the predict right on that to get the chunk I would need. So Tyranitar's addressed. You're down to your Excadrill, but you also have your Regen Core. The balloon comes out. You have Sand. I know you're faster. This is a perfect opportunity to sack Moltres here. I have to. Um, but my win conditions are getting slimmer and slimmer. I know you're not going to stay in with this here. You're not going to lose the balloon or die to Jet Punch. So you're going to hard switch. I always felt like that was likely to be the case. So I'm going to flip turn on this. Um, I'm going to come back in with Slitherwing and try to get the right predict. Although I think you're really aggressive on this call, and I want to give you kudos on that. That's a really aggressive call. If I decide to Flare Blitz on the predict that you switch to Tangrowth or Excadrill, that could be catastrophic. But you think I'm going to click Earthquake, and you are absolutely right. I do. I no longer can switch out with Slitherwing because I'm too low on health.
Yeah. Well, I think also for if you killed the Excadrill with Flare Blitz, then I think I had faith in my Regen Core to thug it out,
I think
especially because I still have the Shed Shell.
I think they do too. To be honest, I don't think my team has the breaking power. Maybe I could get somewhere with the Endeavor on the Doug trio, but I'm not feeling really really good about that. So
Yeah,
I
the one thing I couldn't afford was for Slytherin to get health back
yep,
with Leech Life.
and that makes absolute sense. So you made the right call there. I jet punch because that is all I can really do. I tried calling that you were going to go for like a knockoff there. My hope was that I would get the knockoff predict right, and then I could click Endeavor or Stealth Rock or something. But I was very wrong on that. My win conditions are basically non-existent at this point. I don't have the bulk to break through. I tried calling an Excadrill switch in. I'm wrong. You're going to run away from Sludge Wave potential at this point. I'm going to guess wrong and click Sludge Wave. And then I think I'm going to click Thunderbolt here, which doesn't do much either. Basically, my only hope would be crits or poisons or paralysis, all going my way. But your regen core is healthy and dangerous, and I'm not breaking through that really well. I think you hard switch to, or you actually have recover here, don't you? Yeah. So,
I recover once and then I go drill, I think.
yep, you
Yeah.
do. Because you get me trapped in this Thunderbolt spam, and then obviously drill comes in. I can't switch out from that. I'm gonna foul play for damage, but it's pretty over at this point. Unfortunately, you've made the right calls on how to get that drill pivoting around. My banded Palafin does not have the ability to break through that healthy regen core, which is where it's at now. So I'm going to wave crash here. You're going to sit in because you just figure no reason to switch out and just skull
Yeah,
bait
I'm
and
just
finish it.
playing for a bit of diff.
Yep, which is the right call. So I was unable to break through that regen core. I knew it was dangerous. I knew you've been really, really effective with it. Just looking at Toxapex's status on the kill leaderboard, I think it's up to 10 now after this match, which is just atrocious. Toxapex should not see that many KOs in a season, but it's been highly effective for you.
My one death Toxapex.
So kudos to you for just continuing to succeed with that regen core. Certainly, I brought solutions to it in this matchup. I didn't bring enough solutions, is what it came down to. I knew I needed to be able to deal with it in multiple ways, and I thought the Doug Trio alongside the Slitherwing would be enough to help me break at least Toxapex. Unfortunately, I got that wrong. My Meganium was unable to break it early game. Had a chance, but was unable to push through. And you obviously executed that win condition really, really well. And then some really good item play with the Excadrill to really enable some late game cleanup because I couldn't get that item popped at a convenient time to, get a Doug Trio Revenge Kill or anything like that. So I dropped to 4-2. You, I think, improved to 5-1, top of the leaderboard, if I'm correct.
At this point, yes, but that's I think just because the other four and one players haven't played.
Yeah. But I mean, you have good differential. You may still sit at the top of that by the end of the week. So
Maybe.
either way, you've achieved a winning season at this point. Your playoff chances are looking really, really good. You're certainly going to be one of the more dangerous teams for the rest of the season and going into playoffs. I think your whole core, this core six right here is just horrifying to deal with because you don't care about the sand chip on your regen mons. They just keep getting their health back and back and back, and the rest of them really don't care at all. The Spectrier is more of a mid to late game Pokemon anyway, so it's not usually fighting against its own sand that often. And then the T-Tar Excadrill Skarmory combo in that sand is just really, really frustrating. So really, really strong team, really well executed by you. I'm going to have to consider strongly on how I would play that differently in a future matchup outside of the knockoff thing I've already talked about. I don't think that's going to be as effective in a rematch. I think you'll be a little more cautious with the Toxapex if we ever run into each other again in front of my Meganium. So I'm not liking my chances yet in a rematch. This was a really hard team to break. I thought I had one way through it and I didn't quite succeed. So well done, man. I'm very impressed by this team, and I was very frustrated yesterday or 2 days ago when I lost. I needed some time to sit with it, but looking back on it now, it's a good learning experience of a match. So I'm hoping to take quite a bit from that and kind of fix my team play for the rest of the season afterwards. Any final thoughts from you on the matchup, your season, your team, anything like that?
I mean, just in general for the game, even when you were like losing, you were still making all the right calls.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was playing from an aggressive Hail Mary position with a few of that, but like I was at a spot of desperation. I just couldn't quite break through. Which speaks to how early of a lead you took here. I think that I was making the right calls for most of that mid match, and I still wasn't able to get through the defensive core. I wasn't able to break open their team the way I was hoping to break it open. So even though I got those mid game calls right, you took such an early lead with those first 5 or 6 turns of just knocking off my Moltres, of poisoning and taking down the Mega Meganium.
Yeah, I was expecting to get knocked off when I toxic the Meganium.
Yeah,
But I just kind of got it for free.
yeah, that was a really, like I said, that if of the whole season, that's probably one of my biggest blunders for prep is just not putting that knockoff there because Earth Power offered nothing in that matchup, and I'm frustrated at myself for not remembering and correcting that. But I can't live with what I can't rehash on what I've done already. I got to look forward to future matchups, and I just got to be more bold with my Mega Meganium sets. I think that's kind of what it comes down to. I just wasn't aggressive enough on that with Mega Meganium and some other ones, and you were strong on the defensive end, and I couldn't push through. So yeah, man, I don't know how else to say. You obviously kicked my butt here, and I don't know if I can find a way through in the future, but I certainly hope we get the chance to run into each other again because I like your team. I like the matchup. I like the way it makes me think for the matchup. It's a fun way to prep.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, Aero, I thank you for joining me on the mic today. It's been really fun talking with you. Like I said, your team is very fun. Your thought process is very interesting. Your whole team structure is something I'm going to keep in mind for future drafts for myself. I've actually never drafted sand before, but I could see myself drafting a sand team like this. I think it kind of fits my play style a little bit with some of the defensive, at least a Gen 8 version of me with the defensive core and some of that offensive potential and the synergy with that. It's a fun core, and I want to look at that more in the future for myself after seeing how you've been playing with it this season. But that is it for us for this week. Like I said, I fall to 4-2, still a good standing, still in a good spot to try to make playoffs in this 9 week season, but I do need to buckle down and get a couple more wins in the bag. I once missed playoffs in this league with a 6-3 record, so nothing is safe here. I got to make sure I finish strong to.
That
Uh,
sounds familiar.
yeah, yeah, it happened like 2 or 3 seasons ago. It was just brutal. I mean, everyone performed really well except for like 2 or 3 people, and so we had some 6-3s miss playoffs, and I was one of those guys. So um, I can't feel too cozy even if I get that fifth win in the coming weeks. I got to find a way to get 6 or 7 ideally to feel strong about my playoff seeding. But right now, 4-2, not the worst place to be. Good differential still, but I do need to lock in for my next matchup. I got to deal with a Mega Alakazam, which is horrifying in a new and different way. But thank you everyone for tuning in today. I will be back next week with week 7, hopefully with my opponent on the mic. Thank you again, Arrow.
No problem. Good luck next week.
Thank you.